All right, so here we are live. Uh, this is Bruce and my best buddy of 19 years, Justin.
Hello.
And yeah, we just came back from the gin event in Orlando, Florida a few days ago, and we've been kind of sitting in our stew of our responses of what happened there. And we decided that we wanted to share this together because we have quite a history together. So I think maybe we should start there. So Justin and I, like I said, we've known each other for 19 years. We met through the cadet program up here in Canada,
Air
and
Cadets represent.
shout out Air Cadets. You really can make lifelong friends with meaningful relationships and stuff. Uh, and yeah, so like I mean, we met when we were 15 years old. I guess that ages us if you can do math. But we've gone through quite a journey together, eh?
Yeah, yeah. Started off as rivals, of course, because I come in a little late in the game into the cadet program, so it was more about advancing. But lo and behold, I actually really enjoyed it too. So climbing up the ranks was something that was happening rather quickly. And for somebody like yourself who'd been working so hard throughout the years to reach where you was, it's kind of like, what the hell, man?
Yeah,
So I
I
could,
started cadets with like my very first class was me sitting in with all the other first years, all about the 12 years old, and the chief warrant officer coming in and giving his big spiel and selling us hard on how important cadets was and what we could do with it. And I remember sitting in that classroom looking at him going, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be the top guy in this squadron. And I was on track for that. Like I was kicking ass compared to everybody else in my year. And then this guy comes along and all of a sudden I've got somebody that's like hot on my heels that's just come in like the last minute, and he's already 15. But there were reasons for that. And then through him applying himself, like I mean, we started to well, we first bonded over a bush camp. So like we're out in the bush and we're looking after a bunch of like 12 to 14-year olds kind of thing. And the guy that was supposed to be in charge of that camp
yeah,
backed out last minute.
yeah. So we were like 16 at this point, right? Like we had
Yeah.
already like spent a year through this rivalry, this like mild
Yeah.
tension, and then I think there was like a capture the flag game too,
Yep.
and anyways, we ended up having to work together and camp together because go ahead, you were explaining how the warrant
Yeah.
officer.
So we were co in charge of this bush camp because we were the highest ranks that were able to go. So I think we were both sergeants at the time. And so we had to work together, and we had
Does
to
flight sergeant make sense? Just to
it
be
might
just for
I mean
the
that was 19
just for
years
the
ago now. It could be flight sergeant, but I mean it doesn't matter. We were the same rank and we were the highest ranks going on this bush camp, so we had to work together and we had to sleep in the same tent. We weren't with our usual group of friends, so to speak.
yeah.
um and through that experience we realized, hey, like we actually work pretty well together. We have some common interests. And it was like the stepbrothers moment of like, are we best friends?
Yep.
Right. And so from there a beautiful friendship began and has continued for almost 2 decades now. And like Justin and I both went through a really hard spirituality journey. We both come from a basic like religious background. We were both Christian growing up, and then started to expand ourselves and look in different directions. And there have been lots of times when we have separated and gone different directions on things, and then we always end up paralleling each other in our journeys, which I've always found to be just really telling of how in sync we are as friends. Um, because then we would come back together and we'd share our stories, and it'd be like, oh, you went through that? Yeah, I went through that same thing, just in a different way. Like, okay, well, what's your perspective on that? Oh, okay, well, what's your perspective on that? And we always had things to um enhance each other. And that leads really well into why we both went to Gen and how that happened for each of us. So Justin, if you want to kind of take that one away and start with your story, and I can jump in part way.
Sure thing. So funny enough, this was both our first Gen event, this major event.
Sure was.
And we have heard about Gen in two different ways. Like I myself learned about it like 8 years ago when I was starting a tattoo apprenticeship, and the person there handed me like the physical CDs because it wasn't on YouTube yet, and I said, "Here,
What
listen
CDs?"
Right, the Your Wish Is Your Command, Kevin Trudeau. Basically, the entry level portfolio that you get when you are interested in joining something like Gen. And so it's 14 CDs or 14 clips long. They're all about an hour and a half, and man, do they blow your mind. So it's like, it takes, imagine like not going to a Gen event, but continuously listening to this stuff and like hearing it differently a little bit each time, and slowly growing through life, but not really like super applying it. And years later, Bruce starts to share with me about this support network group, this like self-perfected group. So it's like supporting you to do your own work kind of thing. So it's really nice. But he was like first telling me about it, and if he would have asked me to go to the Gen event then, no way, man. So many reasons why, like, for the word.
Yeah, you had a bad taste in your mouth around Gen just because of the guy that introduced you to it, right?
Yeah, but also where I was emotionally, stably.
Okay, yeah.
But that as well. So I mean, add the emotional instability with how I felt about that. So after having used Technotutor for a bit, and after having connected with the people in the group, in this self-perfected Facebook group, and our Zoom calls and the self-leaders calls, all of those things, connecting together with people that are for the same focus, has a profound effect. And I wasn't going to Gen with this anticipation I was going to get a bunch of training. I'm an affiliate. I don't get any of the level training, but that's okay, because like this is where I'm at, and me, I've always been okay with acknowledging where I'm at. And so I didn't want to worry about taking on too much at my first event. So I was okay with going just as an affiliate, because the important thing for me that I wanted out of it was to see who I would be once I was immersed in that room. And so I was immersed with people that like you can consider yourself equal to, because you see them there, that before previously are like celebrities almost to like if you're connected to a group that's growing. How big is self-perfected group right now?
It's almost 1,000 members now.
I think we just reached 1,000, right? So
so
like that's a family that's growing, So I wanted to experience not only the Gen event, but getting to meet a lot of the Technotutor people. So like my journey has kind of come full circle, this to Technotutor and self-perfected. Like it gave me a different taste for Gen. And I was like, oh, I don't have to see it in the same light as this other event that happened. So like, okay, I didn't go, but it almost kind of made it worthwhile, because my first event was the same event that you were ready to go for. And we both are standing there at the welcome circle, and you're standing on the other end of the room. And I'm just like, this is cool, man.
Yeah, definitely. I had the same experience, and like you and I have built our relationship to a point which I find really cool, where we can be on opposite sides of the room and not be uncomfortable with that. Like I really enjoyed watching you interact with other people there. And like just to clarify for everybody, so TechnoTutor and Self-Perfected, they're separate entities, but there's a lot of support that goes between them, just like Jin is another separate entity. But there's a lot of support that goes between that as well. And a fourth kind of rung of this, or a fourth leg of this table is Destiny, and we might touch on that too. So just so that everybody's clear, those are four different things, but they all interact. And when you utilize all four of those things to the maximum potential that they have, you are going to succeed beyond your wildest dreams. Jin has the sales training and the networking, and then Destiny is about life perfection, about like really solidifying your principles and understanding what life is really supposed to be about and how we're kind of screwing that up. And then Self-Perfected is a group, a Facebook group. I recommend everybody like go check it out. Just search on Facebook, Self-Perfected. You're gonna have to answer a few questions in order to get in, because we vet our people. Only good people there, which is great because it's a safe environment for you to ask questions and apply the things that you're learning from Jen or from Destiny, or just like anywhere, anything that you're learning in your life, you can bring that into the group and like question things and bring your perspective and then get some feedback. And sometimes there's some pushback, sometimes there's some support. Everything is supportive in that group, but like sometimes support looks different than other times. There's
Yeah,
recognition.
kind is not the same as nice.
Exactly, right? Like sometimes there's recognition and sometimes there's challenging, and both of those things are supportive. And then TechnoTutor, the reason I left that to last is because it is the linchpin for everything else working, because TechnoTutor helps you integrate the information at like the physiological level and allows you to apply the training that you're learning, because instead of just learning it on a conscious level, you're actually utilizing the subconscious and unconscious. So anybody that's interested in that, reach out to, well, either of us, because, well, I don't want to bury the lead here, but you can reach out to either of us about that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So for myself and like Justin's journey of hearing about Jen 8 years ago, I had never heard of Jen, okay, until I joined TechnoTutor. And I had heard of Kevin Trudeau, and I had heard some pretty nasty things about him, to be honest. So it never really sparked my interest very much. But when I joined TechnoTutor, one of the things that was strongly encouraged for me to do was listen to your wishes, your command. And so I listened to it and I was wowed by it. And I was like, okay, like, this is neat. This is cool. I want more of this. And so over the last just over a year that I've been a TechnoTutor distributor, I've been exposed to Self-Perfected and Destiny and Jin in a ever deepening way. And when during COVID, there were no Jin events because, well, obviously, you know, there was too much restriction on gathering and travel and all this kind of stuff for it to make sense for them to continue doing major events. And so this event in Orlando that we were just at over last weekend, it was the first major event since then. And when it got announced, the hype and the sales pressure that got put on both of us through our groups, specifically Self-Perfected, and for me personally, the TechnoTutor group, it was like, if you don't go to this event, you're a loser. And it was like, okay, like, okay, how am I going to get there? And so not just like, if you don't go, you're a loser. There was a lot of explanation of the value and stuff. So
Right. So this
I
is
committed to go, and then, yeah, take it away, Justin.
remember
Jump
that
in.
when they're putting that pressure on it was more like, I say, looking back on it, as like a peer, like everyone's going to the pool, like, let's go, man. You know, like, if you don't go, you're a loser. But we didn't get that. We didn't understand that at the beginning. So I know, like, for me, like, there was a lot of reasons why I couldn't consider going, man. And like, the more that they pushed, the more or encouraged the idea of it, I was just like, hang on, I gotta look at how much I gotta get done. And, you know, my passport had expired a while ago.
Yep.
You know, like, I hadn't.
Well,
really...
both of our passports came in like, what, 2 or 3 days before we left. Yeah.
And you know, like there's a lot of things, and well, there's a few things really that were in the way. I didn't know if I could afford that, if that could be sustainable, you know. And the thing is that like they say success is a decision away, and like it really is, because the moment once I realized, and it was like a challenge to like self honestly look at my response, because I was just like, I don't really want to go. Like
Right.
that's a lot of effort for, like, you know, like what, I'm not even gonna get the training because I'm not a member, and you know all this stuff. And so then I can and asked if we're like, is that honestly how you feel now? He's like, yeah, yeah. And then I like over the next 2 days I thought about it, and I reminisced on like the last 10 years and how like I actually did want to go. I did want to experience this immersion, this interaction, this networking. Um, because it was gonna finally like open up these doors that like I don't know how to explain it, that you like waiting for it. And so I, in self honesty, I was like, yes, I do want to go. So then I started to I asked Ian, we had a conversation, uh, and I asked him like what were some of the things in the way, like what's the cost of the ticket, and I looked up the cost of the flight, and then I looked at, and I didn't worry about if I thought it was a lot or not. I was looking for info, like very neutral about it. This cost, this cost. I'm like, okay, try and get as good a deal as you can, not screw yourself over. And so once I laid everything out and I realized, so there was something else in a call, at the same call where he asked if it was honest, like is that an honest response? There's a Google Hangout. He said to everyone, uh, instead of thinking that like all the things that I have to deal with are infinite, consider the fact that the things you have to deal with are actually finite. You know, like, and with each thing that you work on, that you walk through, you become more clear. So I kind of recognize that I need to walk through that myself on this decision and just be like, you know, yeah, okay, I do want to go. Here's the steps. And then lo and behold, everything fell into place. Even when my car needed like $2,100 of repairs because the clutch went, I still, because I like all of a sudden had this like magical overtime hours that showed up, and you know, I had like just happened to like I priced things out and I budgeted things out that like, yeah, I wasn't like building my savings a whole lot, but I was actually okay. I was good to do this. So, and then I got another contract. My concern was like, well, what happens when this contract is over? I got another contract. So like when you
I had a
decide,
really similar experience too.
well,
Yeah, like I mean, there was a lot to walk through, right? Like, I mean, we're traveling internationally from Canada, or as I like to call it lately, China, and we're like we're we're looking at airline tickets, we're looking at event costs, we're looking at meal costs, we're looking at all these things. And originally the intent was for me to bring my whole family down. You know, I've got my wife and 4 kids, and we looked at the cost of that, and it was like, okay, that might be a little outside the ballpark of possibility, but it's really important that I go. And I saw that right from the beginning, but I denied it for, you know, various reasons. I was coming up with excuses the same way you were, right? You know, well, I'm not going to be able to participate in everything when I'm down there. I'm not necessarily going to there was a big question mark as to like what the value, the return value on investment was going to be.
yeah,
And so that was a big deal, right? I mean, I've got 4 kids. I'm trying to build a business. I'm building a business. I'm doing a lot right now to make ends meet and make my life better and better. And this is a pretty high price tag thing, right? Between flights and all this other stuff, right?
yeah.
So it's like
And then yeah,
it's
then
more
you take
money
your
than I
hotel too.
yeah, exactly. Like it's more money than I was comfortable spending. And it's like, okay, but if you don't go outside your comfort zone, then you're never going to grow, right? Like you can stay inside your comfort zone for your whole life and you're just never going to change. You're never going to grow. You're never going to succeed. But when I started to see the why of, why it's important that I go through the encouragement and the education from people like Kian and Asif, again for myself, and then Cameron, he was giving me the same thing on the distributors calls of like, this is super important. You need the sales training, you need the connections, you need the network, you need to see people in person. And I was like, okay, so that's the why. I need to go because I need to expand myself. I need to expand my business. I need to get out of my comfort zone. And like Kevin Trudeau says, when you know the why, the how doesn't matter, right? And you can't see what's not on your radar screen. That's another one that came up while you were talking. It's like, for myself, I made a major sale for myself, a cash sale, like 2 or 3 weeks before the event, and got paid out like 2 days before I left. So that paid for my trip, right? Just making that major sale. And I didn't know that that was going to happen, but I had a flight booked and I had an event ticket and I had a hotel room and all of these things, and, debts racking up. And it's like, okay, like I'm
Go break.
going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm committed.
I'm committed. Here we go. Yep. And sure enough, in the end, it's like, okay, it all worked out. And
yeah,
the return on investment for anybody that has never been to a major gin event, the return on investment is like 1,000% or more. So I guess we've covered how we got there. Justin, what did you get out of the gin event? What was your big takeaways? What was your return on investment?
all that immersion thing that I was talking about was definitely palpable, but it happened not the way that I thought it would. Like, I mean, yeah, I got jazzed up in the group and the rallies and all that, but what gave me the most resounding impact and what I think had more importance was how all of the people from Self-Perfected and Technotutor, and there were 60 plus people there.
Yeah, we had a big group there.
Yeah. And so we were all kind of like mingling around, like finally getting to meet each other after like months or like years of talking to each other on the screen. But like here we get to meet each other, and that, and everyone on the call tonight talked about how like that was the thing that stood out the most for them, like and Jonathan said it in his video in a great way, like every time you looked over your shoulder, you're looking at another like event where somebody's life is being changed, like it's being unfolded, like right there, because like
through those personal interactions.
Yeah, but these are all people that follow a specific principle set.
They all have a certain purpose.
And yes, a very specific purpose. And so when you're all walking that together, there's an exponential effect that happens with that. So, talking to the power of the group, that's the word, that's the phrase, that's what I got out the most of this, the power of the group. Because every time that you talk to somebody else, they had another perspective on things. But again, all because they're all walking the same concepts and direction, then it's somebody that you resonate with. And so we all resonated together, and we were all able to offer each other something, even if it was the exact same thing to reflect back at the other person. I remember one conversation I had with Alan, and like there's like Mailat and there's a whole bunch of people around us. Chantal was there, and Alan and I, Michael, and Alan and I just couldn't get on the same track. And it was as if like the further we would try, the further we were having a different conversation. But like everyone watching could see the two different conversations, could see the sense in them, but could see that it was just us that was not connecting. And they're like, so they walked us back to it so that we could be like, huh. And then it happened again. And then it's like, oh, So it gave me the opportunity to see like what's the mechanism that's happening when I'm doing that. Oh, I'm assuming where he's coming from. And maybe it's because I'm excited and I'm like, oh, this is how I could answer that. That's, an ego reaction. Or maybe it's because of a defense, because like in the past, somebody who's had a particular stance has made me feel a certain way. So like these assumptions go up, and he does the same thing. He's like, oh, that's actually my problem too. And like that's what I'm doing right now. So we both like sat there like, okay, like we're not gonna assume, like what are we gonna do instead? And we thought about like, well, Kian, like how does he deal with that? He just goes, like he just asks you to explain it. He's like, what do you mean? The amount of
Yeah.
times I've heard Kian say, what do you mean? Or what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Or can you explain that? Like that's his way to get you to go deeper, like.
Well, and that's a
And we,
direct Jin training right there too, is like, if you disagree with somebody, or you see something differently, you don't just get into an argument with them about it. You ask them like, oh, that's a really interesting perspective. Can you expand on that? What do you mean by that? Right. And that's
yeah,
how you get people to open up. And in a salesy kind of way, it it gets them to tell you what you need to say to them, for one thing. And it also empowers them to share. And you, especially at these gin events, like one of the major components of this is forming genuine relationships. You can't get to know somebody genuinely if you're not willing to listen to what they have to say.
exactly. So yeah, we were talking about how, like, what we got out of it.
What did you get out of it? Yeah. What else did you get? One more point. I've got one point to lead you if you don't have something.
Sure. There's
Okay,
there's
so
so much. There's so much. Like every
I know
moment was something.
it's not that you don't have something, it's what thing do I want to share?
Yeah.
Well, let's focus in a little bit. And so you bought TechnoTutor from me how long ago?
I don't even. I feel
It was
like a
like,
bad. I feel like a bad boyfriend who doesn't remember his anniversary.
you don't remember our anniversary, you bastard.
No, for Technotutor, I'm like, I don't remember your birthday, Technotutor. So
Okay, so I think it was December, wasn't it?
yes, just a couple months before I moved. Yes.
Yeah, so like it was just a little bit before Christmas.
Yeah, maybe it was October. Makes sense.
October?
No, that's too soon. Eh?
I think that's too soon. I think it was December. I'd have to,
Okay.
I can find out. I can look back at your
Yeah,
records,
fair
find
enough.
out. But yeah, I think it was December. Anyway, however long ago it was, you bought TechnoTutor a while ago. And I mean, I had talked to you about it from the minute that I got it, essentially, because it was making such huge changes in my life.
Yeah.
And it took you a while to commit to even buying the product, right? And we're like best friends. We have been for a long, long time. And I was at first I was like, fuck man, even my best friend won't buy this from me. Like, how am I ever going to sell this? Like, that was a thought that went through my head at one point.
Oh my
And then
God.
it was like, okay, no, he's gonna buy. He's being stubborn and he's going through a bunch of his own stuff right now. So I'll get him there, right? And then interestingly enough, it was when I came out in person to Ottawa that you finally bought, right? And we sat down with Kian and we had a big conversation, the three of us. And by the end of that conversation, you were like, okay, I'm ready. I'm gonna buy it.
Well,
And
it
so,
sucks when the salesman knows how to melt away your resistance points and like
yep,
legitimately sell. So it's like it's not
yep,
just that he's selling you; he's actually like getting you to look at like some of your bullshit that's in the
yep.
way. And because with logic and reason, he's so grounded that he like directs you right through it. So you're like, huh, yeah, I guess that's not really a thing, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you bought TechnoTutor, and ever since then, I've been pushing you toward distributorship, right? Like, okay,
Yeah.
you need to be a part of this. Like what we're talking about, it's been mentioned a couple of times here now about like a shared purpose that comes out of the Destiny principles and directly out of what we're doing with TechnoTutor, creating a world that's best for all, ending child slavery, poverty, and abuse worldwide. These are like one of the things that Kevin says in Gin is have the biggest dream possible, have the biggest goal possible. And like, I can't see a bigger vision than what the vision of TechnoTutor is. And so, as I learned that, I got super hyped up about it. I'm still super excited about it. This is this is the only way to change the world, is through education and equalizing the population of the world. And so I'm telling my best friend about this. I'm telling you about this, and it's like, hey man, fuck, you're not getting it. Like, come on, come on. And then you start getting sold on gin by being a part of the group, right? It wasn't just me. You had Kian and Asif and
Yeah.
like all of the group members in Self Perfected that are also TechnoTutor distributors, and then you had all the group members that are in the Self Leaders Club, who are all TechnoTutor users at least, and everybody's talking about this gin event. So eventually that, hey buddy, we're all going to the pool, you'd better get ready. That started to take an effect, and then you made the commitment, you came down, and then what happened while we were down
Well,
there?
I do actually want to make a point on that. That the important thing
Go
was
for it.
that on that call where things have been challenged originally about whether you want to go or not,
Yeah.
they had talked about symbolism and how this event is a symbol for something else. So
Mm,
going to the event means so much more, so many other things than just like the event's name. And so the concept of going, for me, it showed me, I'm like, I'm not even prepared to go. I don't know where my finances are at. I don't know if I have the ability, if I can even cross the border, all of these
nice.
issues. And so, uh, when I had, once I made the decision and put it all forward and then was able to go, it was like I was finally able to see that like I could make it happen. It was originally something that was unfathomable and that I might not be able to like. It was, for me, it was like I can't make it. And
Yeah.
then so imagine my entire outlook on life and what that would have been
Hmm.
if I treated every situation like that. Like I'm not able to mobilize on going down to the States for anything. So imagine if there was a job opportunity, or if there was like a just I want a trip or something, and I'm like, I can't go because I'm not ready, you know. So I made the decision that whether I can go or not, I'm going to do everything that I can to be able to go, so that if I'm able to go, I'm ready for everything, and if I'm not, then I'm ready for the next thing.
Nice. That's
And
a
that,
great point. Yeah, like the just the process of getting ready to go and committing to doing everything in your power to get there. I mean, for one thing, that's what got you there, but for another, even if you hadn't made it, you would know within yourself that you had done everything that you could, and that process of preparation would prepare you for other things in the future. That's great. And like for me, going down to the event, it was, I mean, of course, meeting the people and seeing everybody, one of the things that I really enjoyed, I can't remember who first said this, but I've said it a few times since, so it's my thing now. Whoever it was, I apologize. Um, like we've all got this like 2-inch space above our heads on Zoom, and it's like, oh well, you've got 2 inches above your head and I've got 2 inches above my head, we must be the same height. And then you get in person with people and it's like, holy shit, you're tall, and oh my goodness, you're tiny. And like, it's very surprising to, to see people in their full physicality, just in that sense. And then also the resonance of everybody vibing off of each other and riffing off of each other, and just being totally genuine, driven by the same purpose, being in the same place, and really connecting on that deeper level. Because like, we have self-perfected hangouts every Friday. I encourage everybody to look at those. They're really awesome, but they aren't the same thing as being in someone's physical presence. And when you get like between 40 and 60 plus people at a time. And I mean, sometimes we were in groups of 5, sometimes it was one-on-one, sometimes it was a whole group of like the 40 to 60 people all at once. But when you get those people all there moving toward the same goal, man, you get so amped up. Like by the time I came home, I was like, I need to build my business, man. Like I said to a couple of people on the last day, I was like, normally if I had gone to like a big conference event, something like this in the past, it would be at this time on this day of the event that I'd be like, oh man, it's over. Like the just for laughs guy. Oh,
Yeah. Oh
mommy, it's
no.
over. Right.
It's a Canadian thing.
Yeah, that kind of thing, that feeling would be within me. And this time coming home, it was like, okay, man, like I'm ready, I'm raring to go. And I actually can't wait to get home because I have so much to do.
The event
Like,
doesn't end.
no, it doesn't. You just bring it home with you. And that's
That's what they
exactly what's
asked you.
happened.
Exactly what they asked you to do.
Exactly. And so like I get home and the next 3 days I'm on phone calls and setting things up and connecting with people. And now the next 3 days I've got business presentations and business phone calls, and like I'm booked until I go back to my job, my day job. And like that's awesome. Like I haven't moved myself like this for a while. And coming up to the gin event, like even when I was committed to going, even when I was like, okay, whatever it takes, I'm going to get there, I was like burning out. I was having this like I'd been pushing so hard for so long that I didn't even realize that I was just pushing a brick wall
Mm.
and not getting anywhere, right? And it's like, if you just took 2 steps to your left, you'd be able to just go through the door and this wouldn't be that big a deal, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm pushing so hard that I don't even know there's a door there. And going to the event and getting out of my pattern, getting out of my environment and connecting with these people and connecting with their resonance, it pushed me that 2 steps left. And now it's just like, boom, here we go, I'm off.
2 steps to the
That's what
right.
it's all about.
2 steps to the left. 2 steps to the right. You got on the dance floor. Yeah,
Oh
man.
yeah, I got on the dance floor and like, okay, anybody that saw me on the dance floor, I apologize.
You did great, my friend.
But like dancing is something that in my life up until the gin event, I had only ever done drunk. So another point to make, actually, that brings up another point, is that no one there that was in that group of like 60-ish people was on drugs or alcohol or any like mood altering substances pretty much the entire time we were there. Some
Coffee,
people had
maybe?
coffee, maybe. Yeah, there was probably a lot of coffee. But like maybe a glass of wine with our banquet, but that was as far as alcohol went for anybody. And a lot of people even abstained from that, because it's not about getting drunk and having fun. It's about having fun while fulfilling your purpose. And I mean, that's something that a lot of people can't say that they can do. And we can. This whole
Yeah.
group is all about that. It's about cleaning up your life and really taking the biggest goals that you can possibly take on, taking that bull by the horns and really like making something happen. So like,
So I actually saw all of that process. I saw everyone doing it. So the concept, effectively, the concept of self-effective, the concept of really needing to get this into the hands of as many people as you can in order to reach for the bigger dream of making the world a place that is best for all. And so like really creating some change. How does it happen? Like I was so stuck on like the how and the why. But once I saw the group in action, once I felt what that was, and now just looking at my own the difference in when I arrived there to when I arrived here after, like the clarity, like I'm just like I'm hopeful, not even hopeful. I'm very optimistic about what the group
better word, yeah.
is going to accomplish, because like man oh man, like everyone's getting this upgrade. So that for me was kind of like the lock the key in the lock that allowed me to really consider, okay, well, no matter what it's going to take, like I have people who know me, know that I'd like, if I could change the world, I would, right?
Yep.
And I have tried. I even had a Reiki business with my brother that was doing like so. If I had applied myself a little bit more, and like we were both like younger, had a lot going on, and had a lot to walk through still. Like I didn't have technical tutoring back then. Imagine. So
Yep.
I've tried other things. I've sought after other things, but it always came up to the same wall of like, you just, once you feel better, you go back into the same patterns. And it's like,
Hmm.
well, I need to move past these patterns. I need to see what's really going on and really break through. And again, at this event, I made another decision that was like, why am I waiting to be a part of this team? Why? Because I think that I won't be able to find the right person and convince them that this tool that is exactly what they need and like has helped me, and like look at all these other people that it's helped, and like dramatic stories by every single person. Like it's tough.
Yeah.
Every single person. So like what? Okay,
Yep.
maybe there's something here,
Yeah,
and
what Nick was sharing on the call tonight
oh
and
my
like my
god,
own story, and like you're right, every single person that touches this thing and really commits to it, right? Like I mean, you can, if you buy it and put it on your shelf and you expect your life to change, then you're an idiot, right? If you actually use it, your life is going to change. That it's there's no other way to look at it. It's just
yeah.
a given, right? TechnoTutor is the tool of change. So if there's something in your life you want to change, this is the way to do it. And yeah, I love the way that you said like all of these people and their stories are so confirming that like, yeah, this is the thing to be a part of. And like I'm super stoked. I think you were about to say
That
that you
I'm
have committed, right?
yeah,
You're in.
yeah. So I have my letter that's being written for application, and at first I was like, man, like trying to save up like a whole other amount again. Then I'm like, man, that's gonna take me like 2 3 months. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
it's a
like I
whole
didn't want
nother hurdle.
right, and I didn't want to wait that long, to be honest. And I was talking to Katie. He's like, well, why don't you just see if you can get a loan? And like at first I was looking at like creative ways, and then I finally decided to just like check to see. My Borrowell app showed me that I was able to like apply for something, and it actually wasn't too bad of a deal. And I'm like, okay, well, this isn't so bad. Why don't I do this? And so I applied just to see, because I'm like, hey, maybe they'll turn around and say, and it actually ended up being like more than what I qualified for, more than what I had sought after. So it was just nice to
Boom.
hear that the work that I've been doing to rebuild my credit has had an impact, but also that now all of a sudden I'm like able to make this decision. So I'm
Well, and
able
it's
to
funny, like
mobilize.
that's a great example because a lot of people, like, I mean, neither of us were fully convinced at the beginning that we could make it to Gen financially, right? The big stumbling block. Oh, I don't have the money. That's always the biggest excuse about not buying something, not committing to something. It's like, oh, I can't afford it.
Yeah,
But when I looked at my, and it wasn't even my finances, it was my influence and my leverage and my sales ability had increased to a point where I was able to make it happen, whether my finances matched it or not. And like I'm looking at the same thing. I'm looking at upgrading my business. And um at first it was like, holy crap, that's a big number. I don't know. And like with where I'm going, it's not a financeable thing. It's like you need this much money. And I'm going, holy crap, that's more money than I've spent like without financing ever before in my life. So this is going to be a big purchase. And I was like, how the hell am I going to do this? Like, okay, it's not possible. But through being encouraged and challenged to really examine that, I found ways. And, you know, potentially with any luck whatsoever, and not that luck is a factor, like I'm committed to making it happen by the end of this year to have that upgrade completed and to be an area distributor. And so like that's a you know, it's another example of when you understand the why, the how doesn't matter, right?
No.
Just start moving
It's like
and
when you
you will be
understand the
amazed
why,
at what comes into alignment.
when you understand the why, it's basically you could replace it with you understand the urgency.
Yeah, that's a great point too, man. Like, I mean, one of my favorite talks that Cameron gave to our big group was when he was talking about like getting into relationships and having babies. And he's like, what are you guys waiting for? Like, the longer you wait, the longer we have to wait, because even if you got in a relationship today, you're not going to get pregnant for like a year, you know, like a committed relationship. You're not going to get pregnant for like at least a year and a half. And then you've got to wait 9 months for the baby to come. And then you've got to wait about 5 years before you start seeing the results that we need to see to show people that TechnoTutor works with everybody, right? Because I mean, his kids are mind-blowingly smart and stable, and like meeting them in person
Oh my God.
was like that did it for me. If that had been the only thing I did for the entire
Yeah.
time of the trip, that would have been like worth it, right? And yet there was so much more that happened. All the other interactions, the talks about health, the talks about business, the talks about just personal journeys, and all of it was just so uplifting. And you mentioned it before, but I'm going to mention it again. What Jonathan talked about in his video of being able to look over your shoulder and see a life-changing moment at any given time, you know, that was phenomenal. And
Brunch? Oh, of course. You know, somebody's
yeah,
rocking somebody's world with a mind expansive truth bomb, you know.
yeah. And like, I mean, something else that I realized is, um, like I had 6.5 hours of sleep in 72 hours, and I was still coherent. I was still having great conversations. I was still able to function. And it's like, holy shit, I'm wasting my life fucking sleeping.
Yeah. So yeah, one thing you actually said about that earlier was like, you know, like the purpose that comes through that, and like that was a purpose-filled event. These were
Oh yeah.
purpose-filled conversations. These were purpose-filled people, and I wonder if like that's like the fountain that spews out, like that when you feel somebody's magnetism, you know, when somebody comes in and they're like, wow, like this is a star, you know, like they're purpose driven. They have very clear about where they're going, and
Yep.
they're doing everything they can. And so like it almost like pulls you forward like the engine of a cart rather than like you pushing it behind. And like we don't realize that, you know, when you're like pushing and pushing and pushing your whole life, you don't realize that there's like
All you have to do is sit in the driver's seat, dumbass. Yeah, that's a
literally
great
give
point.
give
Yep.
into yourself. Take that like the ego is the autopilot. Take that, put it aside, get back into the driver's seat, and really decide where you're going. Because like if you're just gonna keep going based off the influences of your surroundings, we're just gonna create more of the same problem, right? So we really
Yep.
have to take charge and lead it out. So that was
Well, and
my
like,
decision to commit to you know, my distributor for TechnoTutor. That was my decision to go to the event. That was my decision to take a chance on a friendship with my rival.
yep. Yeah, that's a well wrapped there, Justin. That was awesome. Um, so I feel like we're kind of coming to a close. So let's just go with, okay, what are your top two things that you're bringing home from the event?
My top two is the clarity of vision and like my dreams. So where I'm going, my why, and just the like let's go energy. That's my number two.
That's awesome. I love that. Let's go was
Let's
said so many
go.
times. Let's go. I love it. Love it. Love it. Yeah. And for me, my top two would be, I have an important role in this business, and there is some growth that I need to do to take on that role. And now that I have seen like a snapshot of it, now that I've had the preview, it's like there's no choice now. I am driven to get there, to be that, to do that 100% for the rest of my life. Like I'm I'm on fire and I'm fired up and I'm ready to go. And then the number two is bringing all of these things back to my home. You know, first off, my home that I'm sitting in right now, and bring this back to my family. Like Kristen has mentioned a couple of times, like, wow, you still seem so amped up from this thing. And it's like, yeah, I am. Like it's 4 days later. I still haven't had a whole lot of sleep, although a lot more than I was having then. But like, I'm not, I'm not burning out. I'm not ready to stop. I'm actually using the momentum to build my business. And then also something that people have talked about too is start to build locally, to have those in-person meetings
Yeah.
with like-minded people right here in Manitoba where I live. And you know Manitoba well. This isn't exactly the what you would think of as the focal point kind of area for this kind of movement, but that's just an excuse, and that's the excuse I've been telling myself since the beginning. And now I'm able to finally recognize it as like, that's just bullshit, man. You
Yeah.
just got to move. And
There's
the
people out
magnetism that
there.
you were talking to
There's
is going to
people
bring
out
them
there
to
that.
me.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
people
the
out there that
magnetism that you were talking about.
exactly. It's gonna bring those people right to you. You're gonna bring them right to them, and it's gonna be like they're all gonna be like really interesting scenarios and how it happened, and it'll be part of the story too. And it's a lot more fun when it's less direct. So
Yeah,
keep working at it, and like watching your growth through it, and like watching you get like still amped up. It's like I hear you, I feel you. And you look at how much you fit. When I was explaining to a friend like how much I did today, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Like I thought I was slacking, but like, no, that's a lot of stuff that I did. So yeah, it's really wild to like come off with that energy, that vibe, and to really take it into everything that you do and where you go. Anchor it in. So I'm very proud of you for having been able to make it. I'm very excited that you were there. It's definitely my gin event, in terms of like,
right.
I'm sure you can say the same thing, but like I had my best friend there, and but it's not like we spent the whole time glued to each other, as if like weren't comfortable. Like we're both people that are very comfortable meeting new people, so it was actually cool to be like kind of like catching up with each other when we had time, because the rest
Yeah.
of the time you just get pulled into these like stellar conversations, and like everyone that you talked to gave you something new about yourself, and you gave something new to them.
Yeah,
And it
I had
was
the
like,
exact same experience. Having you there was like the cherry on top, but the Sunday was good even without that.
yeah,
And like it was great. I think it's such a cool like point of our story to be able to say like, yeah, we went to we had the same first gin event. And I'm really looking forward to working with you with TechnoTutor and everything else that we're doing. I'm looking forward to doing more videos like this with you.
yeah.
And yeah, like I'm fired up. I'm excited. How about you?
I'm excited. How about you?
All right. Okay. That's great. Cut.
All right, man.